Good morning and welcome to the Courage Coalition. Today's solo cast is going to dive deep into the subject of fear. One of the things that comes up over and over again is Corey, how did you go from X to Y? What magic pill, what beautiful book, what philosophy, what coach, what the list can go on, right? What is it that allowed you to step outside of this chapter, step outside of what you had always known and step into something different? And the answer is twofold. But the key here is the word fear. Fear is such a powerful tool. It is such a powerful, honestly, roadblock, because the fear of not knowing what is on the other side is truly what crushes your dreams. The fear of not knowing what's on the other side or what the answer is what prevents you from dreaming. It's from what prevents you from understanding what is in your heart, what is in your soul, what is in your mind, what is in your future is fear. Because in our culture, we fear being seen as different, seen in something that we've maybe never done, seen in success or failure, seen in breaking cycles or creating what do I want to say, noise and or maybe movement in something that people like to say, you should just let it be. Fear is the number one stepping stone to something different. When I think back to this cycle of what moved me forth, I can think back and know that fear was a part of it. But here is the key, is that even when I was at my most vulnerable, even when I was at my scaredest, even when I was at a point where I was like, you know what, who the hell do you think you are? Fear is what allowed me to take the next step. And I say that with a grain of salt because I know that for a lot of people, it is about what stops us. But what if it wasn't about what stopped us? What if it was about what lifted us up? So, because what I want you to think about is instead of the thought process that we're starting over or we're doing something new, what if we're just creating an end? What if we're just coming to an end of one chapter? Not forgetting, not letting go. It's just the end of one chapter and the beginning of the next chapter. Because here's what we don't realize when we are fearful is that fear is something that we were created to feel because we needed to save ourselves. When we think about our ancestors and generations of humans, fear was put in us to protect us so that we could create multiple generations of humans. This was what created us from being eaten, from us from being becoming extinct. Fear is a basic human tool that protects us. The problem is that we've never updated that system. We continue to believe the immediate feeling of fear means stop, no, turn around and run. But what if fear is actually the feeling that comes up when you know you're actually supposed to keep going? You may not know how, you may not know why. The ego might raise its ugly head in so many different ways. But what if it's the exact reason you must keep going? Because the ancient wiring of our ancestors is not the ancient wiring of today. And if you're questioning that, I ask you, are you living in the same ways of your ancient ancestors? Do you go out and forage your vegetables and your meat every morning to feed your family? Do you go out and forage wood to build your house? The answer is no. But you're still living in that same ancient wiring when it comes to, excuse me, your fear. So what if the fear is not for you? What if it needs to be rewired? You need to update that operating system. And the thing that comes next to me is this, is that we have a very, very basic need of being accepted. Again, coming back to survival. Part of our survival in ancient ancestors was to be a part of a clan, a part of a group, a family, a village, a tribe. To be accepted into that was dependent upon our survival. If we didn't belong into a group, we would probably not survive. And so I want you to think about that for a second, because that survival, that need to belong, that need to be accepted and not ostracated is so deep within you that, again, it allows you to forget who you are. It allows you to live a life that is created out of acceptance versus authenticity. A life of copies versus original art. The cost of belonging has crushed more dreams and more desires and more change and more impact than probably any other thing in the world. And I mean money, I mean health, I mean impact as far as numbers of followers. It is the fear of belonging, of not belonging. Because when we see ourselves as not belonging or not being accepted, we begin to shrink. We begin to compromise, and we start staying safe. We get into those comfort zones of what has been accepted, what we have been told we represent or who we are, and we stay because we know we have acceptance here. We belong. We are loved just as we are. But what if that is the exact same thing that does not allow you to move forth, to step outside of what has always been into maybe what has always been a part of you? But we walk this really, really tightrope when we're doing this, when we're walking this journey of growth, of evolution, because we know that at any moment we could fall off. But at the same time, I want you to envision walking that tightrope in the fog. You cannot see maybe 10 feet in front of you, maybe 100 feet, but you cannot see in front of you, and you cannot see what's below you. Above you, left to right, you're just walking this rope that feels so terrifying, so vulnerable, that it would actually be easier to just turn around and crawl back into what you've always known. Because even though you have this feeling, this voice, maybe this voice that's not even heard by anyone else, it's just a voice that your ears don't even hear. It's just a voice of your heart, a voice of your soul. It's a knowing that if you keep walking, if you just ask to be supported and loved and keep walking, that everything may change. But most won't, because that fear of losing those we love, of those that we love not understanding why we're doing the things we're doing, or the changes that are happening in our lives, that when we step forth in something new, we have to sometimes release identities that we've never not known. And we have to step into identities that we've never known. And that, my friends, creates a fear of losing everything. Yet we actually don't have to lose anything. Evolution is small incremental changes that happen over time. Yet sometimes when we think of growth and evolution and change, we think that we have to jump off the cliff. But what if it's actually been happening in you all along? If you think back and collect that evidence of your life and of your experiences. And you can see how you've stepped forth in fear multiple times in your life. But maybe you've always done it for somebody else. And so that's why it felt safe. That's why it felt comfortable. Maybe you've always done it in ways that our culture, our society said was acceptable. And so the fear didn't necessarily come from underneath the bed, right? The boogeyman in the dark. But now you're asking yourself maybe something, a step forth or an evolution or a growth that maybe isn't as accepted. Maybe it isn't part of the belief systems you were raised in or the values in which you thought you always held dear, but definitely were taught that are belong to you. Maybe you're questioning those same beliefs and values in ways and asking, do they actually belong to me? Is this a part of the life, the legacy that I want to leave? Or does this belong to somebody else? That's when the ugly fear starts arising. That's when the fear that stops us in our tracks. It makes our heart beat faster and our body feel like it needs to run. But what if those are actually the feelings that are telling you to step forth? Maybe not run forth, but step forth. Take one small step in that direction and see what you find. Get quiet enough to hear those voices, to hear those feelings, those ideas that actually your ears never hear, your eyes never see. They're just inside of you, and that's because they're in your heart. The heart that you were created to live, the heart that you were born into. Because the cost of belonging to what has always been may be exactly what is costing you your dreams, your purpose, the impact in which you were born to maybe leave and lead in this world. There is a deeper journey here, and I'm going to read this from a book I'm reading, and it says, Elizabeth Gilbert wrote, "Never forget that once upon a time, in an unguarded moment, you recognized yourself as your friend." Take it a little bit deeper. What if one unguarded moment, you recognized yourself as your true forward movement? Those dreams, those hearts, those changes, maybe you can't even put words with it. You just know that there's something more. My challenge to you is don't allow yourself to let that stop you. Don't allow that to be what causes you to not seek something different. Be okay with asking yourself, if I fall, was it worth it? If I do it for one, is it worth it? Because the answer typically is going to be yes. Yes, it is. Whether that is from what you are leaving, the reflection in the mirror that you see, or what people are watching. Because here's the thing. Remember this. No matter what you believe, someone is always watching. That could be your child. That could be your mother, your parent. That could be your spouse. That could be a community member. It could be anyone in the world, but someone is watching. And everything that you do or don't do is a reflection of that legacy in which you leave. I'm going to read this again. This comes from a book that I am reading currently, and it is just absolutely beautiful. It's Mary Magdalene Revealed, and it's by Megan Watterson. It says, if I could start again, it would be in the darkness. And in the darkness, all we would see is a hand suddenly extending out toward us. And that invitation would be terrifying. Seeing this hand would compel our heart to start beating rapidly, audible. The fear comes from feeling out of control. We want to leave and we want to stay in equal measure. We want to know what might happen next and for everything to remain exactly the same. Taking this hand is a choice to surrender. Surrendering it all of the fear, the hurt, the anger, and the ego that created it. When I read that, I thought, yes, what a beautiful, beautiful statement about fear. We want to run from it and towards it at exactly the same measure. We want to know what's on the other side, and then yet again, we don't. So as 2026 unfolds, I want you to ask yourself this: where am I allowing fear to guide me? Where am I allowing fear to lead the way? Maybe not in truth, but in handcuffs and in shackles of what it means to hold me back, push me down, shut me up, or turn me around. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions you will ever feel. And yet, it works both ways. Fear can hold you back. Yes, it can. But it can also hold your hand and pull you forward. I'm not asking you to not feel fear, because fear is powerful. Fear actually makes us stop and ask, what is happening? What is on the other side of this? Where am I going from here? And it can be that best friend, that one person that holds your hand and walks forth. So ask yourself, am I going to walk forth with my best friend, or run from which that is going to hold me back? I hope something today really sparked curiosity in your mind and in your heart, more than anything, your heart. And I hope that you take some time to reflect upon where maybe fear is actually directing your life. And is it in a way that allows you to evolve and grow into the beautiful human that you were supposed to be, are destined to be? Or is it pushing you down, putting duct tape over your mouth, shackles on your hands and your legs, and telling you, not today? Remember to share and download the podcast and leave a review. That is how we share it with the world. Love you, mean it. Until next time.